There's this, and it should be going right now.
All right.
I think we're recording. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, love bugs. It's Michelle coming at you live again today. We're doing episode number 2 of On the Couch. Today I am welcoming a sister, a friend, a confidant, a guide, a teacher. For a moment we were distanced. Her name is Kimberly. I call her Kimber. So today's episode is going to be called On the Couch with Kimber. I want to read to you again. I'm going to have her introduce. You can say hi.
Hi.
Isn't she beautiful? She's so gorgeous. So we're going to talk about again. I'm going to reread my mission statement of what this series is about, of being on the couch. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a source energy to discover, unite with, and love, a destiny to embrace, and a lesson to learn and teach us all. So we're going to tell Kimber's story today, right now on the couch. Kimber, just kind of give a quick hey and, introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that feels pressure. Okay, so my name is Kimberly. I've known Michelle for, almost 15 years. Is that right?
Math, 2007.
2007.
So that's
12 years.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh, so yeah, I mean, edging towards that 15, right? That's crazy.
Because we're only 29 years old, so
Right.
I don't understand. That math doesn't make sense. That that you and I could have been alive long enough to know each other 12 years. Yes. So
Yeah.
7.
Wow. Yeah. What do I say about myself? I guess right now I'm just an ever evolving human, still looking for my path, and taking that day by day, and learning about myself and how I can bring the best version of myself into the world.
That's awesome. What a great mission statement. What a place to be. Have you always been this focused on this kind of pathway for yourself, interested in really learning about you?
No, I think at the beginning part of my life, I was really more focused on learning about other people and how to please them, and was more outwardly focused. And my inner story was more about other people. And I actually was mugged by gunpoint, and that kind of, I don't know, I feel like it was one of the best things that happened to me, because it was a big kick in my ass about how precious life is, and made me question what I was doing with mine.
What year was that? Was that 2009? When was that?
2010.
Okay.
Or,
in Atlanta,
yeah.
When you lived in Atlanta?
Yeah, I lived in Atlanta. It was
Right.
2 blocks from my house on a Sunday afternoon at noon, like really unexpected. And he only got $5 from me. So like it wasn't any big loss in that way. It just really was a, wow, I could have died. And I spend a lot of my time thinking about death, thinking about not wanting to be alive. And that almost happened right now without me being the one that was thinking about it. It was somebody else, it was an outside force. And that made me really think, oh, okay, so that's not really what I want. I don't want death. I just want to end my pain. I want to end the suffering that I'm in. And I guess that's kind of where I've been evolving towards since then.
And since hindsight apparently is the year 2020, looking at that traumatic event up until like this moment, you and I talking, I mean, you can see the book of Kimber's life that's happened, and all the lessons and all the healing and everything you've looked at and gone through, and really embraced every single obstacle. It's just what a championship story. I mean,
Oh,
at least for you, because since I've known you for 12 years, like I can see that story, and it really is a champion story.
mm, thank you. I mean, uh, like that's something I'm working on now. Is I've even like that happened 10 years ago. I've still been in a very dark place, until recently. And looking at my lights, I like hearing you say something positive about me just like makes me feel gross. So it's like,
Mhm.
it's interesting. I don't know. I'm trying to be more aware of these moments and acknowledge them. So as a tick in my head that, okay, that's there.
Yeah. Interesting. So I want to talk about how we met, because we did meet in something that's called Drum and Bugle Corps,
Yeah.
where you and I share a passion, a desire, a fire. That's why I can call you sister, because of that love of color guard and performance and pageantry and, costume and makeup and
Yeah.
all that dramatics. That's where we met, was in drum corps and performing in color guard. I kind of want to talk about that aspect of you right now.
Oh,
Can we go into that? Because
sure.
that has a lot to do with like your whole spiritual centering. Yeah, I agree. I need to start with an invocation. I can hear my guide saying, let's kind of, you and I, kind of ground ourselves. Um, we can get rid of the little bits of anxiety that still might be there. I
Mm,
like how we chatted first, to kind of get those rumble tumblies out. And now we can get to the good stuff and really open up and be vulnerable, so that the people that watch us can feel safe,
mm.
feel
Yeah.
safe and no shame and no, I'm weird, or, maybe they're thinking that they want to die too. And that's something that you and I can talk about, and how grateful we are to be here right now. So let's start with a little invocation.
Mm,
So just take a couple of deep breaths. Whoever's watching, just kind of settle into your belly, kind of where your pelvic bone is. Settle into that space in the middle of your pelvic bone. Feel some warmth. Feel some pulsating. Feel your heart and your lungs energy drop down into that space in your pelvic region. Feel that area swell up each time you inhale, and feel it squeeze out each time you exhale. Keep going with that rhythm, staying centered and grounded in that pelvic region. We just want to say thank you for bringing us together, Kimber and I, both in friendship, in spiritual partnership, in human evolution, in all the different aspects that we got to have and we get to have in this relationship. We want to thank this ability to get together, to talk and share real experience, real evolution, real learning. Um, so grateful to be teacher and student for each other. Thank you for all relationships that are like this on this planet. Take a couple of deep breaths. This is really, I like the way this feels, and we're going to bring our attention back to the space.
wow.
I mean, that feels so good. I went into every relationship and I was just like, oh my God, we're so lucky. Like, it's so
Mm. Ugh, I got chills.
yay.
So much love, gratitude, beauty. Yeah. Mm,
We're
thank
lucky motherfuckers, Kimber. That's all I can keep saying about life. So I do. Let's go back. Yeah. So let's go back. I want to talk about color guard
you. Okay.
performance. So when was the first time you saw it?
Color guard. Oh. Probably at a Christmas parade when I was in middle school. Yes. Well, I mean, like as a kid. No, probably much younger than that, maybe 7 or 8, when I used to go to the Christmas parade in downtown Central City. And I see all those big haired 80s girls with those flags.
Girl,
Yeah.
those rings didn't move, did they?
Oh,
That was a whole can of Aquanet right there.
yes. Yes.
And what did you think when you saw, what was it, a flag line, a rifle line, dancing girls, all of the above?
All of it. It was just like, oh, that's so cool. They're so pretty. Look at that. Ah. And yeah, I remember being jealous because in 7th grade, they took a bunch of the middle schoolers and asked them to be in the high school band in the color guard. And I didn't, I wasn't in the band in middle school, so I didn't get asked. And I was just like disappointed I didn't get those 2 extra years.
So when did you actually get to go do it?
Freshman year. So freshman year, I did both marching band and winter guard. And I definitely was more a winter guard girl.
Right? So just to explain to everybody that's watching, if you don't know what we're talking about, marching band is like the halftime show Friday. There's saxophones, flute players, trumpet players, trombones, all those guys, and then you got the flag girls, the drill team. Some people let the cheerleaders on there. I wasn't on one of those, thank goodness. Oh my God, get those cheerleaders off my field. I'm sorry, I'm just a little judgy. But and then winter guard is when the color guard, the people that do the flags, the performance, the dancing, when they get to have their own time in a high school gym, an arena in Dayton, Ohio, and they get to perform. It's just them, track music, and they got props and floors now and all kinds of stuff. It's pageantry at a level now that, man, it's so wonderful. But so you got to do winter guard for the first time. So yeah, I don't want to talk about marching band because that's one thing, but your
Right.
first time walking on the floor in winter guard, how'd that feel for you? Do you still remember that?
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, it was terrifying because it was such a different feeling. Like, when I'm going to compare the two. In marching band, you're kind of further away and it's more like you're part of a team. It's not really like your focus. But in winter guard, it's just people are in your face. They're right there. And you're like, I got a twirl and there's people right there. What do I do with that?
Dude, there's judges, my parents, my coach. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it was intimidating. But then I don't know, like it becomes addictive. Getting into that space and letting yourself free and perform and find these moments for yourself. And yeah, I don't know, there's something that doesn't top that.
So did you do it all through high school?
I did. Let's see. Our first year winter guard was just our high school, and then there weren't enough girls to do it, so we ended up and had an independent guard starting sophomore year. I marched in marching band. I didn't march my senior year because I kind of boycotted some things that were happening, but I did winter guard, of course. So yeah, so I marched independent A winter guard for 3 years with Polaris winter guard. Senior year, we made it in the top 10 at WGI, which was amazing.
Yes.
So yeah, it was nice to end my winter guard career that way. I mean, even though when I was older and I went back to guard at CV, I always wish I'd had the opportunity to do winter guard again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I met you, was in Corvettes. That's what they were called at the time. Called CV now, from Atlanta.
Yeah.
All age drum and bugle corps that, they kick you out at 21 for regular drum corps. And wonderfully, they have these DCA corps that let us old people go back. So we all got together and marched in Corvettes in 2007. And that's where our relationship started. Do you remember, like, what are the good habits that you learned about yourself? What were the good traits that you learned about yourself those early years of doing color guard?
It's the first place I learned confidence and having some self-esteem. That's what the performance gave me. And then there was, so that was, I didn't have that anywhere else in my life. And I kind of thank God that I had that. Um, and then discipline, like, and being okay with failing. I remember the first time I did rifle, all like, oh, all the bruises, all the broken light bulbs. I'm throwing it in the house, you know?
The scraped up popcorn ceilings and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And dropping it so many times and picking it back up and going at it again until, it really taught me perseverance. And I guess last, it's like, being in a group, like having this culture that you belong to that's, I don't know, there's something really lovely and inviting of having this group of people that you've shared these moments with,
It causes a real intense, really close relationship really fast,
Mm.
from that first day of auditions. You don't know who is in that room, and all of a sudden the guard is set and you guys are like 24/7. Even with like Corvettes, we only met on the weekends, but even then you had such a closeness, and it's immediate bond, it's immediate connection and relationship. But yeah, it changes your life. you know it brings so many different people together, and sharing a passion like that and really working towards a goal. That is one thing I want to talk about, the failures, the messing ups. I can personally tell you that I wasn't always nice to myself when I messed up.
Mm.
um, I'm not pointing fingers or blaming anybody anymore, but I can tell you I wasn't raised in an atmosphere where messing up was something to be, oh, that's okay, just pick it up and do it again. That's something I've had to learn myself.
Mm.
But back then, and especially back in the day, when I started color guard, it was very, you're too fat, do that better. You drop, you're a tick waiting to happen, like you were called out with the megaphone by directors or instructors or designers, hey, fuck up, that type of stuff. Not that they were yakking at me, but it was happening
Right,
around, and I was terrified. I didn't want to
right.
drop. And I did. I had a mother. I have a mother, or at that time, she was very, well, you better not drop. Instead of telling me, good performance, man, I couldn't stop watching you, which is the stuff you used to tell me. It's
Oh
so
my
funny. I
God.
gave, I gave you a compliment of, all your growth. And it's funny because that's a compliment you gave me. You said, I remember watching you. I would only watch you. And then I think it was Tad, probably, because of course
Yeah.
everybody wants to
Can't,
watch Tad,
you
right?
can't help but watch Tad.
Dude, you can't not watch Tad. You'd Zoom, it's right there. But that was a compliment to me because my mother never said, wow, I couldn't take my eyes off you. You
Oh,
commanded the room. I mean, I never heard that. It was always, I'm glad you didn't drop. I'm glad you didn't fuck it up. It was just so much pressure all the time. So, did you find a confident voice inside, or did you have that kind of, you know, whatever that was inside
honestly,
me?
when I was in it in high school, it was the thing that gave me confidence. Like my mom, I think because you come from a background, a family that was really involved with marching band, you were like in this kind of, I mean, like performance art that they were just regimenting, and for me, like being in, small town Kentucky, I mean, we were still like state champions and stuff like that. Our band director did like yell at us and all those awful things, which I hated. But it was like the one area of my life my mom couldn't tell me, you need to do this better. You're not enough. And so I was really able to gain. If I didn't have that, I don't know if I would be alive right now.
Interesting. Color Guard was your safe place from criticism?
Yeah. It,
Wow.
I mean, until I got older, you know, and until I went back to, until, you know, my mom didn't let me march winter guard in college. And she started to try to take it away from me because it wasn't something I think that she didn't think she could control. And,
Mm.
you know, um, but I learned a lot, but also being an instructor, like taking what I learned, that confidence, that was like the most important thing for me to instill, especially to one group of girls that I taught uh, for 4 or 5 years. It was having that confidence and believing in themselves and giving them opportunities to grow. And I really loved that. And it is something that I think has helped me. Looking back at that helps me understand what my motivations are.
Mm. Just by spinning a flag in front of some people. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I am so glad for that activity and that it brought us together in that way. Um, and thank you for sharing your experiences in it. But I want to talk now about what has happened in your life since, I mean, yeah, let's go back to your traumatic event. I don't want to talk about that event per se. Um, just a couple things about it. Have you gotten to a place of forgiveness for that human that put you in that situation?
Yeah, I think that happened pretty quick for me. Like it never, it's weird. I never, well, I'm not going to say never. Um, I was able to heal my victimness, that, feeling unsafe. And actually, yeah, it's because I went to therapy. It was the first time that I went to therapy. And yeah, I mean, that's the other thing it did for me. it led me to therapy, which is like something that I want to do now. So,
That's what you want to be when you grow up, is a
yes.
therapist. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you
That's
for clarifying.
it's what?
I said, thank you for clarifying.
I know. You want to do this. You want to be on the couch with other people and help them through. Perfect. I wish I can't wait till we think of another word though, instead of therapy, because it just, I don't know, it has such a stigma. And as we're evolving right now, hopefully we'll realize that it's not therapy, it's necessity.
Mm,
Talking about our feelings, talking about, past trauma, current perceptions that might be off, experiencing different things and being able to communicate with each other. I think everyone deserves freedom and therapy. It shouldn't be called that, it's just pretty much communication and sharing like Color Guard does,
mm-hmm.
being in Color Guard, that block, I know spinning gun for me was therapy, throwing it as high as I could, catching it as hard as I could, being the best one out there. That's like therapy for me. It was having, Victor and Chris making jokes and Terry and you know what I'm saying? And April laughing, like, that was therapy. That was like, it was like breathing. Does this all make sense what I'm talking about?
Oh, 100%, 100%. There was something very spiritual about being there on the weekends. It was a oneness that I felt as well, like,
How
yeah.
do we integrate that into every day so we don't forget that? Is it possible?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure there's a way to take the energy of that kind of feeling and carry it with you, radiate it out, So, I mean, possibly just, yeah, meditating on it and really resonating with the feeling of it and understanding what that feels like, and being able to bring that up when you need it, or to have maybe a word, that
Mm.
help you bring it back into
Mm-hmm.
the present. Mm.
So after that event, your life shifted. You experienced a divorce and a move to Canada, right? You left.
Yeah. Yes. So I got a divorce from my first husband and decided to move to Canada and study psychology. And
Why Canada?
why Canada? Um, well, at the time I made it for a boy, you know, even though there was a very conscious part of myself that knew it was for me, and that I was using that as an excuse for me to have the courage to move and do something on my own and to be independent, and that it really wasn't ever about that person.
I call those boys bait. The
Bait.
boy that was bait that brought me to New Orleans,
Yeah.
your boy was the bait to get you to Canada, and you and I needed that bait. Otherwise, I don't think either of us would have made the moves that we did.
No, not at all. Um, yeah. Yeah. So I moved to Canada and, oh, see, what can I
By
say?
herself, I'm just
Huh?
saying. By herself.
Yes, by myself. It was, yeah, the boldest move I've ever done in my life, for sure, to quit a great job, the highest paying job I ever had, and go back to school full time without a job, not having a whole lot of money in the bank, and just fucking swinging
Mm.
it.
You had that little car, you pulled the thing, you drove through the mountains. I mean, come
Oh,
on.
yeah, that was a whole other thing, like pulling a 12-foot trailer on the back of a car by myself, well, and my cat Moxie, um, and taking a week to drive all the way there by myself. Like, that was, yeah, I can actually really say that was brave. I don't know where I found that courage, but it was, had its scary moments where I went too fast and it was like shaking. I was like, oh, and yeah, yeah, that was an
You
amazing.
made it. That is, I mean, that's another one of those moments in your life where I was looking at it going, God, I don't know if I could have done that. How strong you were and determined. It was awesome.
Mm.
And so you're in school. I mean, you're in a break now. You got another marriage. You found love again up there.
Yes.
How's that? What was different about this particular relationship? Because I do want to point out, if you don't mind,
Mm.
the energetic connection that you and your husband have. I kind of want, if you want to talk about that whole meeting and what that felt at, as opposed to what you thought relationships were before.
Okay. Um, with Topher, it was, I had promised myself I was not going to be in a relationship. Like, I was like, 2 years going to school, I'm going to be single, cute boys, all that stuff. That's what I was thinking. I was going to live it up. And I moved here, and a month later, I meet Topher.
Dude,
And
you had a month, you know?
what's that?
You had a month,
I had,
so.
um, yeah.
That's funny.
So, I mean, the crazy thing with Topher is he was only going to be in Halifax, where I was living, for a month. He actually had lived in Korea for 6 years teaching English, which was like another weird coincidence because I'm half Korean and he lived in Korea for 6 years. And he was kind of at this crossroads in his life and thought he was going to go back to Korea a month after we met was what was supposed to happen. Um, but of course, that's not what happened. Um, yeah, what was different about he and I don't know. The first time I met him, I just told him my whole life without even thinking about it. It just came out. And I felt so comfortable with him. And, you know, in some sense, he wasn't anything what I thought I'd be attracted to, like physically, but it was just this energy, this knowing of comfort, of being familiar. And that was just like crazy. Like we couldn't deny it, even though both of us were like, no, we don't want to be in a relationship. You know, Topher had a bad marriage and was just like, no, I'm not getting married again. I don't want to be with anybody. And I don't know. We just both kind of opened up to each other. And I think the first month we'd go out to breakfast, like, or go out to eat, and we'd start talking. And one of us, we would just tell everything, like all the things we were embarrassed about, um, all the things we were ashamed of, and like we just cry. Both of us in restaurants, we're like, people think we're crazy. We're just like sitting here crying, telling our lives to each other. And we kind of both said what we wanted in a relationship. I was like, well, if we're gonna do this, you know, what I learned from my first one is, you know, I have to kind of say what I want, and you know, it's not something. So it was like, okay, I want a partner. You know, that means that we have to navigate life together and talk and communicate. And, you know, we might have our separate paths, but we have to figure out how they connect, because otherwise, what's the point? And a lover, you know, having the pleasure of a mate that, you know, you can be intimate with each other and explore your sexuality, I think is very important. And let's see, partner and friend, you know, someone that you can talk to, that you can lean into, that understands. And I guess the biggest thing for the both of us that was important is that we both always thought it was important that we grow. You know, like we didn't want to be stagnant and settle. For us, it was always like we're trying to figure out how we want to heal, you know, ourselves and become that ideal version of a relationship that we kind of put out and kind of have left. You know, not we don't. Life makes us check and say, oh, are we doing those things?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Did you
Yeah.
actually tackle those things since then?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have. You know, there's been a huge amount of growth. Over all these years, we've really come through a lot of really big ups and downs in our relationship, and dealing with the obstacles that come into our lives. And, you know, we were attached at the hip. Topher decided to apply to school and go into psychology as well. And that was something that we did together. We took every class together for 2 years, did our thesis in this with the same thesis supervisor. I mean, like we were attached at the hip for 2 years.
Wow.
And he taught me a lot as far as learning and breaking things down so I can understand it more deeply. And he was really able to take complex ideas and bring it into a space that I could understand it, so I could grow and understand it in a more complex way. So that's something I find that he's really good at. Yeah, so
So did all this come natural? Because I'm just sitting here going, that sounds really evolved and out there. but it also feels like you guys had to improv most of this, because did you have parents that gave this example of a relationship? Did Topher have a parental system and setup and environment where you guys naturally knew to do this, or you understand that this is innovative couple thinking?
I, no, we were winging it. We didn't have role models that we were looking at within our own family systems. Um, I guess for me, I just, because of my first marriage, I really, having a partner, and I've always been like a hopeless romantic. So having a partner was always important. And after the mugging, what I really asked myself what that meant, like what a marriage really is, what that relationship's supposed to be.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think just because we set that all at the beginning, and it felt like, now that I look back, it feels like it was like an intention that we just set and left. And no, there's a lot of fighting and, like closing down and seeing each other's dark side and shadow, and saying, hey, this, I don't know if this is working, and finding ways back to each other. And finding, I mean, I guess for me, the most recent thing is like really seeing what I'm bringing into the relationship that isn't um, benefiting it, like, and really trying to treat, I mean, for me, it's like when Topher's having a bad day, instead of being frustrated because I'm tired, like, think, well, what would I want him to do if I was in that position, and seeing if I can give that to him, and asking myself questions like that, because I think that sometimes, well, in a relationship, I feel like both people have to find moments to step up for the other person,
Mhm.
or yeah, but it's evolving. I don't know.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Is there such a thing as that old prince rescuing the princess anymore? Is that anything that, is a realistic goal as far as relationships?
I don't think so. No.
What should we be teaching, those freshman girls, those freshman boys about love and partnerships? If you had to give them three really important things about it, not romantic love or that like idyllic love that we see in the Notebook, you know, those romance stories that made you and I wanting that same stuff, those songwriters and singers that transcend you to believe that all that holding hands is forever without the real trauma. Like how do I talk to a teenager now, about partnerships and love? What are the three like main things you would say to focus on?
One, know yourself. Because knowing yourself, then you know what your needs are and what you value in a relationship, because it might be different. Like for me, it works. In some ways, our relationship works because we're both introverted and we like to stay home, and we're okay with having time by ourselves. And I don't feel this pressure to, be near him all the time, but also to ask that, hey, I want to snuggle. I miss you, And so understanding what your needs are, then you're able to communicate that in a relationship, and you feel significant. You feel significant in a relationship. So um, knowing yourself is important. Um, Two is, hmm,
Isn't that funny? After knowing yourself, it's like, what else is there?
two, don't expect people to be like you.
Mm.
Once you know yourself and you've cleaned up your shit, as much as you can. That's an ever evolving process, but as long as you're aware that you've got to be cleaning that, then you can have space to be able to take somebody else in and accept them for their faults. There's not going to be anybody that's perfect. People, all of us have our own faults, and there are going to be things that you do that is irritating to the other person. And, you have to say, is that enough? Is that a deal breaker? And sometimes it's like, it's that compassion of knowing that some of those irritating things that someone does might be there because that's a coping, that's something that they're dealing with. And the more that you can create a safe space, I guess the last thing is communicating, and having a vision together, I would think are the is the third thing. Because otherwise, why are you in a relationship if you don't have a vision together of what your life is? You should come together to create something together. That's the point. Whether it's a family or, supporting each other through whatever growth, that's kind of what I feel like our relationship is. Like, we're growing side by side. And yeah, so you had to find what that is for you. Like, I can't, I'm not going to say it should be this or that. It's like the process is finding that out for yourself. What's important, do you really want to be a mom? Is that what you want? Because that's a big commitment, and that's something, like, for myself, I had to really think about, and especially at my age, and that was a hard decision.
Well, how much of that pressure was from outside? Was it mostly from inside?
About
Whether to have children or not? Was the pressure from the inside of the house, or was it outside boogeyman trying to make a impact?
Yeah, there was definitely outside forces that pushed it. I think that I'd have to be a different version of myself, because I feel like I'd have to be like 10 years younger, because I do feel as I get older, my energy's different. And, like, at my age now, I don't know if I'm okay with sacrificing the time I have for ritual, the time I have for myself, because I still feel like I have a lot of growing to do. And I don't want to cause the same traumas if I have a child. There's still always that opportunity that we might adopt or foster children in the future, which I think is beautiful, because part of me thinks there are a lot of children that deserve great families, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to add more to the population when there's plenty of souls that need love.
It's exactly right.
Mm.
Very generous to think about something like that, and really mindful. I don't know if our mothers got to consciously make those choices, making that decision. Well, it'll take away from my time if I have a kid. They just kind of went down a pathway, that was kind of preset. They didn't really get to improvise too much, for everything. So it's really awesome to have this kind of freedom that I know our mothers didn't have in the decisions that they made. A lot of their decisions were fear-based, real fear, that they were going to be homeless, abandoned, rejected. That's back in the day when your family, really, almost controlled you. And now we have so much freedom. We know I could just pack up that car, pack up that box, and move and start something new and let my life flower in ways that I didn't even know. It's awesome, and it makes me give honor to our moms for anything that they did. I personally, I'm not in a place of blame anymore. I was for a while, but now I totally have compassion. I get it. There's love. I've had enough therapy being a mom myself and seeing my children through their own evolution. So it kind of let me see my mom's story, your mom's story, other mom's story, so that I'm not so judgy about them, you know? Because I was mad. I used to get mad at your mom. I'd get mad at all of my other friends' moms. My best friend growing up, her mom was just a tyrant to her. And I was always so mad. I wanted to chew her out. I'm like, God, your daughter's fantastic, you know? I was
Right.
like, what the fuck? Why are you treating her like this? Like, I see her all day at school and she's telling me about this and these horrible things that you tell her. Man, I wanted to slap that lady. I'm like, what are you, you know? And I
Right.
feel that way. I feel protective. You know, my best friends, I'm like, why did we have these moms that didn't know to tell us, you know, and I'm okay. We found our confidence, right? You and
Mhm.
I are fine now. Like, look at you. You look pretty confident to me. You're sitting here like telling your story and, you know, just so comfortable and expressing yourself and not being shy and like living. It's awesome. So.
Yeah, that's a new thing. It's a new thing. So,
Yes, yes, yes. So going into something like profession like therapy, are you kind of practicing right now? Are you in this quarantine time? Are you finding yourself being there for others? Are you getting into practice? The new therapy, helping people find themselves, learn about themselves?
um, no, I haven't started that process yet. I've actually had a lot of huge emotional processes coming up for myself, a lot of death coming through with old programming. And so I've really had to give space to that and not push myself too much because I've kind of been overworked the last year. Um, but that being said, I feel like something has really shifted for me after this last full moon. And so I feel like I will be moving more towards just being in service. I do volunteer for Crisis Hotline for kids, and I haven't been doing that, but I think that I'm ready to go back next week. And
Very nice.
yeah,
And you understand now, like the healers have to heal themselves first before they pick up a phone and try to heal somebody else.
oh yeah, 100%. I think it's irresponsible not to. You have to look at your own pain because you have to know if you are meeting the person that you're trying to counsel um, in their space or are you in your own, you know?
That's a big switch too,
Yeah.
is those healers being healed and whole before they heal the other.
Right.
Um, I had another question. It just fell out of my head.
Mm.
I've learned how to accept those things. I used to try to dig for it, but it's just like sometimes spirit, you know, they'll take something out of your space and you have to go, well, I guess it wasn't important, you know, instead of trying to go back and dig at that. Can you share some of your processes? You said, you know, that you've been clearing your own stuff, facing your own traumas. Can you share some of your rituals, you know, to kind of tell what you do to handle your charges and emotional, whatever it is that, however you handle it?
Yeah, sure. Um, let's see. I've always been interested in tarot and magic and manifestation and energy work, those kind of things. And they've kind of become weaved in and out of my life a lot. Um, Probably when I was a teen. Yeah, my first deck I got in my early 20s. Um, it went away by my first husband putting it in a yard sale and selling without me knowing, which was not, I wasn't cool with. Um, and then, and then I just didn't touch it for a long time. And I guess because, living in the South, there's a lot of um, negativity and, for me, fear and exploring that stuff too much.
Hmm.
And also in believing it, there's like this dark, evil aspect to it that I was really afraid of because my facade was being the good girl, like that's, I have to be Miss Perfect, good, I don't do anything wrong, everybody has to like me persona.
In
So
this lifetime, your astrological sign is what? You're a Capricorn?
Capricorn,
Yeah, so you're an
Capricorn,
earth sign. So,
yeah,
okay.
Capricorn, sun, moon, rising.
You. I didn't even know that is your friend here. A sun,
Yeah,
moon, and rising Capricorn?
yeah, and Venus. Yeah,
Girl, we're gonna have to do your chart someday and talk about that. That's a lot of earth. That's a lot of stubbornness. I mean, good for you for being this spiritually evolved. That's not an easy nut to crack. That's a coconut. That's not a pistachio. That's a coconut. Wow.
yes, yes. 40 years, come on. That's a lot.
I'm
uh,
impressed.
like I can't deny that I've evolved when I look back at who I was at 20 and 30 and even 10. um yeah, so let's see what kind of work. So um tarot came back into my life right around when we had, I guess 2010, 2009, 2010. I got back, and it's actually on Second Life. And this woman said, I think you should get a tarot deck. And this is a tarot deck I think you should get. And she sent me a link, and it was the Osho deck, which was the exact deck I had the first time.
Dun,
Yes.
da, 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 the one that I have right here. Dun,
Yes.
da, da, da.
Mine.
Yeah.
Um, and I was prepared.
Right, right, right.
um, yeah, so then I started pulling again, and I really allowed myself that time to kind of explore tarot again and numerology and seeing symbols in the world and talking to the universe and manifesting, and I was in a really good space. And oh man, like I'm nostalgic for that space. Like that to me was a really beautiful space that I was in, where I was learning gratitude at that time, and not looking at the negative in life and trying to find the positive and the lessons and all of those things. And to the point where I know, like, I get on people's nerves about it. um,
I
yeah,
mean, you're the one who got me to start thinking positively and saying positive things. So it wasn't annoying, it was necessary.
well, I would say it was really annoying for Topher when we first met, because he's irrational his first degrees in philosophy. So, he's very rational, logic mind, but into tarot, into magic, like into that stuff and study that stuff as well. So that's another like common link we had.
What's his
Um,
astrological sign?
he's a Gemini.
Ooh.
Mm.
I'm sorry, I have an affection for Geminis. They're just
Me
spectacular.
too.
I know.
um, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, honestly, I've been on tarot's been off and on for me. We had started a new business where we were photographers, so like that like just took over my life. I wasn't doing a lot of self-care. um, and about, I guess it was 2 years ago in April, me and my mother had a big falling out, and then the day after, my cat of 18 years passed away in my arms. And that was another kind of wake up call. And I was looking to heal myself. Like I could feel myself still stuck in worrying about what other people thought of me, and doing what I thought my was in the best interest of my mother. And so um yeah. So the first ritual I did was to let go of the ideal mother that I had, and so I could accept the real mother that I had. And it was the first ritual that I like formally did. I like planned it. I really thought it through, and it was beautiful. And I haven't been able to do anything like that since. everything's more like, anytime I sit down to write, I'm just like, I can't, no. And it becomes it's become this very organic thing that I just let myself go into ritual. And mostly it's body movement. So I got really focused in how I was holding my body. And I guess maybe 4 years ago, actually, I started working with my feet first and trying to understand, how am I holding my feet? Am I holding them in a way that's not in the most relaxed position that they can be in? And so, like, that's kind of moved up my body. Where right now, I'm probably like somewhere between the fifth and sixth chakra, and where I still have some stuck energy that's pretty palpable. But I don't know if that's just something energetically that's happening now or if it's mine, and I'm just trying to figure that out.
No, I can see a wave of energy through that space on you. That is a very valid
Mm,
what you're feeling right now.
yeah. Um, yeah, so it's just kind of evolved to energy work and kind of spontaneous journaling and art, and kind of spent the last 2 years going through that. And through the rituals, often, yes, I have cannabis with them, and I can get into some really deep meditative states. And I have a lot of releases where I don't know, I've never really talked about this. So, kind of one of the first people I'm telling this about. So, okay. Anyway, um, there's like this energy that moves through me where I feel like I'm vomiting up. Nothing comes up, but it's like I'm vomiting up the energy, the negative energy. In some ways, it feels like a demon. And yeah. So I feel like I'm skipping things, because the other thing that I do that kind of evolves around that is that I do work with deity. I work with Persephone, and that whole interplay of Queen of Hell and Goddess of Spring. So this death and rebirth. So I work a lot with death as an archetype, because it's the reminder of death that keeps coming out for me, and I've really had to search through that um, thread and find out why that keeps coming up as a message. And I guess most recently, that's what I've processed, is like where my first concepts of death came from and how that interweaved into, me not wanting to live. And so, like, a lot of that has unfolded as I've cleared out some of my stuck emotional energy. Yeah. So I think that was a huge process last week, where now I'm able to just talk about this and not even feel shy. I'm a little shy right now about it.
You're doing wonderfully. I mean, it's like watching you on the field or in the gym. This feels like second nature for you. And I feel honored that you're in this space right now, because now you have this gift. Now you have this knowledge and confidence in helping other people, in a real calling. I can see it all in your aura, your service, and it's not because of shame or guilt or pressure. You've kind of gotten that cloud off of your aura. You've kind of burst it out. You want to be in service, but it's very clear your boundaries. I can feel your boundaries, whereas before, when you and I met, you didn't have any. You know what I mean? And then you picked like these big loud friends, me and April, and you know what I mean? You picked these titans with all this energy, and you had no boundaries, and you just, it's kind of interesting. I energetically, it's not that I didn't respect you before, it's just I can see it, and that is a lot of work that you've done, and honor to yourself. And really, the important thing, instead of making the money or getting that title or getting that promotion, like you picked the route that was more of a destiny. And I think it's great that now it seems like Spirit's putting you in the right place, in the right vibration, so that you can help the people around you in your community now, start to elevate themselves, whether they're in front of you on a couch or just energetically feeling you because you're there in the neighborhood. So good on you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, I always say this is all Kimber's fault. You and my niece, Melissa, this evolution, well, and one other human who's a Gemini, it's all your guys' fault for getting me to where I'm at right now. You guys weren't the domino. You guys were the finger that flicked the domino that started my journey. And, you know, from the unhappy person I was before, to this person who is so happy and so content. And, you know, for us
Yeah.
to be happy to actually be alive, it's such a different place to be. So,
We have come up.
you ever going to get back into teaching color guard again? I mean, let's make the full circle. Let's make the 360. The year that you and I aged out of Corvettes, we did that show 360, where the opener went to the next song, and then we ended, the closer came right back and replayed the opener again. And you remember that whole 360?
Oh yeah.
So how are you feeling about color guard now? Where is that in your life? Have you done any? Do you want to teach it? Do you want to design any? Do you want to help coach?
Right. Um, I mean, that sounds beautiful. I haven't, honestly, it's something that I'd spent so much energy, like 18 years of my life doing. And when I stepped away, I really kind of stepped away. And I haven't, I've looked at some online when I get nostalgic, of course. But I kind of stepped away from physical activity in that way. I went to yoga, but the thing is, when I moved to Montreal, I went to some dance classes, and those have really been inspiring for me lately. It's like this new movement that um, so different because with color guard and I used to love like ballet and things like that. It's very much like regimented and like there's movement and flow, but there's like it's uniformity and being together as a group. And the kind of dancing that I've fallen into is more like it's very organic. It's about your own energy and how you bring that into the space, and it's a totally different place, an experience, I guess, for me to be able to just express myself, and instead of it being in unison with other people, where it was kind of losing myself into that, right? So which was beautiful, but I lacking those boundaries was not good for me. I just had to learn.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I would perform again with you in a minute. Like if we all had an opportunity to, that's my truth, to get back to something like Corvettes and do that. Heck yeah.
I would totally do it.
I mean, if we could bring the old Titans back together on the field, man, I would do that. Simply because, excuse me, my throat chakra. Simply because when I performed with you last time, I was performing from a different place, and now because of our spiritual journey, and I do know who I am and where I come from and why I work so hard and why I perform so big and want people to watch. Now that I know the power of that, I kind of want to do it again. You know what I mean? Before I used to do it because it was, I don't want to talk about how that was because it's so foreign for me. But now, even doing a rep, being in block and doing a 32 count rep and resetting and doing it over and over, the gasoline I feel that I would put into that is just different. It comes from a different place. And again, it's a lot because of you and what you've done to my life. I always think of Michelle as a tornado. When I meet people, it's immediate, and my human kind of jacks up people's life. Like they're married and they're happy in a certain path, or they're doing something, and I come into their life and then and all of a sudden everything. And I always was very conscious about that. I'm like this tornado, and I can look back that we both tornadoed each other's life in all the best ways. We stirred up some muck and got ourselves reconnected. We faced a lot of fears, you and I, together in our friendship and apart from each other.
Yeah.
and just the growth that it's taken. And you and I are both booming our own authentic energy, whereas back in 2007 when we met, at auditions that first time, and we did, our relationship was immediate.
Hmm.
It was at lunchtime. Remember, we went to lunch and boom.
Oh
It
my
was,
God. Yes, but yes, I was intimidated by you for at least that first year, at least.
hey, what do you mean intimidated? I don't,
Because
this
you have such
intimidating, what?
presence. You have such a presence, Michelle. Like the way that you're talking about how you would perform now, like that would be such a pleasure to watch because I always like watching was always a pleasure. So I can't imagine that being amplified. I just can't.
I'm telling you, I want to see it. I want to do it, and I want to do it with my friends. I want to do it with people that feel that too, how valuable each moment and opportunity to run a segment, to do a full run of the show, to drop something and fix it, to see how you're talking to yourself during the whole thing and making connection to those, 25,000 people that are watching you. It's just
I love
amazing.
that. I love that. I'm so glad that was something I was able to do at least was like to be able to be present for that and want it, you know?
The Georgia Dome, come on.
Yeah. Oh, the Georgia Dome did freak me out a bit.
Man, that was right around the block from your house. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That's funny. What a time. Anyway, I am gonna pull a card, a last message, and then we're gonna wrap this up. I want to thank you so much. How do you feel about all that? Did that feel good for you?
It did feel good. Yeah.
I liked hearing about you in ways that, you always were such a great communicator, but it's so nice to hear you like value yourself right now. Again, there's boundaries where there wasn't before, and our separation, it was totally worth it. You know what I mean? A card popped.
Okay.
The Eight of Earth. He calls it ordinariness.
Mm.
This is taking pleasure in the small things. It's funny because it's very like Asian,
Yeah.
those cherry blossoms. Like there's grandma with her little hat, collecting, cleaning. They have those little brooms, that's what this feels like. And it's taking pleasure in all those little things that we get to do. The Eight of Coin in every other deck and every other tarot deck is a card of mastery. It's a
Mm.
human that knows wherever they put their focus and their expertise, that thing will magnify. And they seem to understand if they put their effort towards something that isn't authentic, like they're a lawyer all day long, but what they really want to do is flip burgers at, In-N-Out Burger.
Mm.
It's they learn this Eight of Coin, this mastery. They learn, that's not worth my time, this is worth my time. And then they start to see their whole life shift and really become a master. But this, when Osho says it, he's talking about like when you're doing the dishes, master that water, master the bubbles. When you're in a car, master that wheel and looking at everybody. This is, when you're out in that field, notice the color purple, pink, the grass, master where you're at. And Zen demands that we make no judgment, that we have no, you know, that we don't let our teeter-totter go out of whack that violently. It keeps us centered. So he's very much in this energy is for us to focus where we're at in the moment. And if it doesn't suit us, the universe agrees and almost will encourage us to then go that way. That's true mastery. And it's in the small, simple things, not the hard, difficult stuff.
Right.
It's in the nice, simple, fun things. And eight is infinite and eternal, just like you and me.
Mm.
Just like you and me. Our souls agreed that these two humans are going to meet each other and be the tornadoes for their lives, and the finger that flicks that domino, and that sister, that connection, that mother, that teacher, that student, forever. Like, we're the luckiest motherfuckers on the planet, Kimber.
We are.
Yeah.
I feel very, very blessed right now. And a lot of
I'm the
joy
lucky
in
one.
life.
Yes, good. All right, so let's wrap this up. Is there anything else that you want to say or you need to bring up, or we
Yeah,
good?
I think I'm good.
Good. So again, this time that energy that was sitting in our pelvic bone has now raised up, and its kind of energy is floating up above our heads. So feel everything that when we opened this session together, that was sitting on our pelvic floor down at the bottom has now raised up above our human and is kind of floating even up above the crown and kind of arcing down towards us. So there's been, again, some kind of 360, some kind of capsule. And so that just means let everything flow through you. Understand every moment is necessary and a gift. Everything passes and everything changes and it starts all over. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's different, but every time you're loved and seen and appreciated and adored by all the energy that's around us. Once we say goodbye, I send with the blessings to Kimber and everybody that watches and to myself, peace, miracles, uncertainty, but excitement, new stuff, new tricks, new toys, new opportunities to do another rep, take another shot, show ourselves again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. One last deep breath and come on back. I
I have a full.
know, right? I know, right? It's like, what? What? All right, love. Thank you, Kimber, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to hit stop on the thing, but then you and I can keep talking. If you guys ever want to get a hold of her, I mean, you can find her. You can see her name, and people are going to feel led to you, Kimber, because you have an energy. And since you are a light, whoever feels led to find you for a message or help, or they resonate with you, I know you're wide open to shine your light and share your story with them. So that's an exciting little avenue that could come about for this that I'm hoping for everybody. Anyway, thanks, Kimber, and thanks you guys for joining us. We'll come back at you next time. Bye, guys. Peace. Oh, wait, hold on. I did it wrong again. This is the thing about me, right? There. Okay, bye. I mean it. I did this last time.